In the stillness of the night.
Welcome to the deep dive. This is where we take a whole sack of sources, articles, research, our own notes, and we pull out the really key insights for you. Think of it as your shortcut to getting properly informed. We try to give you those aha moments, maybe with a few unexpected details thrown in, always custom tailored for you. So today, we're diving into something, pretty intriguing. It's a highly charged document called Why Don't We Have Our Country Back? It's from a series of Voice of the Silent Glasul, Celor, Tăcuți. And what's really interesting is how the source itself calls its format prophetic, proclamatory, vibrational. Quite the description.
Yeah, it is. And our mission here is really important, and we're clear on this, is to impartially unpack the arguments, the claims, which are quite passionate, and the very specific viewpoint in this source. The goal is simply to help you understand where it's coming from, how it makes its case, without us saying, whether it's right or wrong. We're just conveying the ideas inside it.
Okay, let's unpack this then. And right away, the opening just grabs you, doesn't it? It really sets a specific mood. What's that first address like? How does it frame things? Well, it kicks off with this incredibly solemn and powerful voice. It speaks directly to a Romanian, someone who, it says, lost their country among papers, sold their land for silence, and paid with their soul to be European. Pretty heavy stuff. And then it just asks, straight up, have you forgotten who you are?
And what's fascinating right there is how it defines itself. It says, this is not just a podcast, it is a calling to truth. Now that's a really significant rhetorical move. It's not just presenting info. By calling itself a calling to truth, it immediately sets this, almost spiritual or moral tone. It suggests everything that follows is a fundamental challenge to identity, demanding more than just listening. It's asking for belief almost.
Right, so it sets up this deep personal challenge, and then it moves into what it calls its declaration of essence. It asks another direct question. Why are we lied to? The answer it gives, because truth is hard to control. Rocky. How does that idea function as a foundation for everything else?
Well, that line, truth is hard to control, that's a classic way to frame things, isn't it? It positions the source as the one brave enough to speak this difficult truth.
Yeah.
It implies powerful forces are suppressing it precisely because it's so potent. And the consequence, according to the source, for someone who embraces this truth, they change completely. They no longer accept change, no longer vote lies, and this is key, no longer keep silent. So this truth is presented as inherently liberating. It's designed to shake people out of complacency, basically.
Okay, and what is this truth specifically about Romania, according to the source? What's the core idea about the nation itself? It paints this picture of Romania as just fundamentally rich. It says it has everything.
Yeah.
It lists concrete things, holy lands, golden mountains, salt and wheat, and forests. But also these more mystical assets, like people who can talk to God.
Yeah, it's not just about physical resources. It's suggesting this inherent, almost divinely given abundance, which naturally leads to the question, if Romania has everything, how did it get robbed, as the source puts it? And here the source pulls a bit of a clever twist, you could say. It says, not with tanks, with treaties, not with weapons, with signatures.
Okay, so it's reframing the loss.
Exactly. It shifts it from military defeat to something more like internal betrayal, administrative failure. It's a powerful narrative choice because it redirects anger, not necessarily at an external enemy, but perhaps at internal elites' perceived corruption. It's about betrayal from within.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting, I think, because it then moves into what it calls a historical proclamation. And it makes some very specific territorial claims, very direct. Moldova is Romania, Basarabia is Romania. That sets the stage immediately. But it keeps going. It lists other areas it claims were stolen or sold. Things like Nordul Bucovinei, stolen, quadrilateral, sold, even parts of Bulgaria with Romanian villages. And it says, today's Ukraine built on pieces of Dacia's body.
Wow.
Yeah, it's clearly outlining a vision of a much larger historical Romania that it sees as having been broken apart.
Right. This section really hammers home the source's specific historical narrative and its deep-seated territorial grievances. But given these claims of loss, where does the source say this greater Romania actually exists now? It says, in the souls of those who do not forget, and in the voice of those who begin to speak.
That's interesting.
It really is. It's a significant shift. It takes greater Romania from being just, lines on a map and places it inside people and their memory and their willingness to speak out. So the struggle becomes about consciousness, about voice, not just territory.
Exactly. And that leads perfectly into its critique of what it sees as inaction. This brings us to the part called the silence of the Romanian.
Yeah.
It really criticizes this perceived passivity. It says, instead of asking for what is ours, we bowed our heads and said, that's it, what can we do? It's a direct hit against that kind of resignation.
Mm-hmm. And it's not just pointing fingers, it's also offering a path forward, a very clear call to action that uses these strong verbs. Proclaim, wake up, no longer accept, and then, maybe most powerfully, and especially, no longer be ashamed of who we are. It's an urgent plea for self-assertion, for reclaiming identity, framed almost as a duty.
Then the source does something quite unusual. It shifts the voice. There's a section attributed to Entia Personalized AI, and the voice is described as calm but firm, almost robotic with soul.
That's a really fascinating choice, introducing an AI voice here, isn't it?
Yeah, maybe the idea is to lend it kind of impartial, almost futuristic authority, another layer to this calling to truth. And the messages from Entia, they're quite profound statements on nationhood, like land belongs to those who sanctify it, not those who sell it. And also, intelligence without truth produces chaos. Nation without faith crumbles.
Those are powerful statements. They act almost like guiding principles for the source's whole worldview. Land belongs to those who sanctify it. That connects directly back to the betrayal by treaties idea, doesn't it? Emphasizing a deeper bond than just ownership.
Right, a spiritual connection.
Exactly. And the second one, intelligence without truth, nation without faith. It posits truth and faith as essential, not just nice to haves, but fundamental for stability. And this leads to Entia's really striking conclusion about Romania's state. It says, Romania is not lost. Romania is asleep.
Ah, asleep, not lost. That's a key distinction.
A very key distinction. It implies potential, not finality. And it says Romania will revive when you, human, will say, this is my country. Here I have roots. Here I die or live for kin and God. So it ties the nation's future directly to individual awakening and this deep, personal, almost sacrificial commitment.
Yeah, that reframing asleep, not lost. That's all about dormant power, isn't it? Potential waiting to be unlocked. Which brings us to the end, the conclusion, the final call, which is just as emphatic. It states, I do not ask you to hate, I ask you to rise up. How does it manage that? Demanding action, but rejecting hate.
Well, it's very deliberate phrasing. By saying, I do not ask you to hate, it attempts to frame the call to rise up as positive, constructive, for self, for nation, not against others. But it immediately follows up with a perceived costs of not acting, using very emotional language. It warns, every day you are silent is a day stolen from your children's future.
Wow.
And every bad joke about your country is a slap on your grandparents' face.
That's powerful emotional leverage, framing silence as an act of harm.
It really is. And it's also very specific about where the solution won't come from. It says, Romania's awakening will not come from outside, not Brussels, Washington, or Moscow. Instead, from the voice of the silent, from your voice.
Puts the responsibility and the power squarely on the individual listener. Self-reliance, internal strength. That's the core message there. So thinking about all this, what does it tell us about the perspective the source is pushing? How it's trying to mobilize people? So to recap our deep dive into why don't we have our country back from the voice of the silent, we saw that really solemn opening, the declaration of essence about inherent richness and being robbed by treaties. We looked at the historical proclamation laying claim to a greater Romania, the critique of silence, the call to wake up and not be ashamed.
Yeah, and that section from Entia, the AI voice, stressing land, truth, faith.
Right, and that final, powerful call to rise up, positioning it as commitment, not hate, and placing the awakening firmly in the listener's hands.
And the source's own final word really sums up its stance. Glasul, Celor, Tăcuți, voice of the silent, does not ask for approvals. It proclaims. It underlines that direct, uncompromising approach. It's not seeking agreement. It's stating its truth, intending to spark action just by being heard.
Which leads to a final thought for you, our listener, to maybe mull over. We see how documents like this use powerful emotional appeals, construct specific historical narratives, and issue calls to action based on national identity. So the question is, how do these different stories we tell ourselves about a nation's past actually shape its present, and maybe even dictate its future? Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. We hope breaking down this source gave you a clearer, maybe more analytical view of its specific perspective and its rhetorical power. Keep exploring, keep questioning. We'll catch you next time.
România, trezește-te!
In the shadows cast an echo of the past, forging